This is for my players. We're playing Skull and Shackles Pathfinder, and we're going to be doing ship-to-ship combat soon. So I thought I'd put together just a video on how that works in game. All right, so this is my layout here. Now, what I'm going to do is I have made up a little notes for ship-to-ship combat. So if you go into your notes and then we go ship to ship, ship to ship, just search for that, and just use the fast play ones. So I've clicked on that, and we'll bring that up over here. So so what I've done, I'm just going to walk you through this. So what I've done is I've got a link there first up. Now that takes you to, if you hit that, that should open up a web page. The D20 Pathfinder SRD for advanced naval combat. Okay, so all the information that I'm working from comes from this. That's a handy one for you to have available. So it's just, you can just Google Pathfinder SRD advanced naval combat. The other link I've got in there is just a link on my hard drive, and that's going to take me to a PDF of Player's Guide for Skull and Shackles. Now this has all my players have got this pinned in Discord, and it pretty much just duplicates everything that's on the Pathfinder SRD, but the Pathfinder SRD, it tends to be kept more up to date. Next thing I've got is a link to another notes file, which is the fully extended version of the ship-to-ship combat system, which I have taken from the player's guide. But we're going to follow this one. Okay, so let's just work it through. Now, first thing it says, when I'll just read it out: fast play combat. When ships themselves become part of combat, things get more unusual. The following rules are not meant to accurately simulate all the complexity of ship-to-ship combat, only to provide you with a quick and easy set of rules to resolve such situations when they inevitably arise in a nautical adventure, whether it be a battle between two ships or between a ship and a sea monster. So the idea is that it's a model. It's not going to be perfect, and you see this come up with a lot with Pathfinder games. Okay, so I've got a link here to some ocean terrain. Now I've also put together just a little encounter there full of all the things I'm going to need in a ship-to-ship combat. Dropped everything into the combat tracker, so now I can start populating and filling in the sheet. Preparations. Decide what type of ships are involved in the combat. Use a large blank battle map, so that's my big ocean map that I've put on, to represent the waters in which the battle is going to occur. A single square corresponds to 30 feet, so going to this one. Now this map that I'm using already had a grid on it, but I've overlaid a grid for Fantasy Grounds, and so that's why it looks like it's got that double grid on there. But each one of the squares is going to represent 30 feet, not the standard 5 feet that is used in normal battle maps. That's going to be important to keep in mind. Place the defending ship as close to the center. Right, so going here, we're going to make the junk the defending ship. Drag my junk and put him onto the map. Right, zoom in, there you go. And it says roll a d8 to figure out which heading. So I created a little table. I can roll that, and this ship is going to be heading north. So I'm going to turn around and make him face north. Done. And to the now next roll d8 determining the bearing of the attack ship. Well, we're going to need an attack ship. So what my players have done is they have created an attack ship called the Red Gull. So we're going to load that in as a character. They've developed it as a character sheet. Now you could do it as an NPC sheet, or you could do it as a character sheet. So either way, it's fine. So I can put the character sheet onto the map. Now, so I'm going to figure out what the ship bearing is. I've got another little dice roll there to make that. So that is going to be in east. It's going to be heading east. So my attack ship is going to be east of the defending ship. So it's going to be coming from this direction. And roll a 1d4 plus 2. To show how many squares it is. Now I've rolled a 1, so it's only going to be 2 squares away from it. 1, 2. So it's going to be pretty close. Alright, okay. So that's that bit there. Evasion and pursuit. So on a wide open sea, one ship can spot another from miles away, making it virtually impossible to surprise another ship. If both ships want to engage in combat, then the ships close to each other and begin ship-to-ship combat normally. If one ship wants to avoid combat, however, a chase is going to ensue. And what it says is at GM's discretion, the faster ship can catch a slower ship, but even slow ships can take advantage of favourable winds, currents and coastal terrain. When the two ships first encounter one another, the pilots of the two ships make an opposed sailing check. Okay, so I have got a captain in the ship. I'm going to call her Rosie. It's just one of the characters from the first part of Skull and Shackles. So I'm going to make her visible, and I'm going to put her on the map, and she's going to be there so I can access her character sheet. And I'm going to get the captain of the party and put him on the map. So now I can just click on theirs, bring up the character sheets. And we can go in and make professional sailors checks. Competitive. Now we've got to make 3 competitive, 3 competitive professional sailor checks. So I'll do 1 for Rosie. I'll switch it to the other screen. 1 for Rosie, and then 1 for Stormcrow. Where's professional sailor? There it is. Okay, so Stormcrow wins the first. Another 1 for Rosie. We're looking for the best of 3. 4 for Rosie. Stormcrow wins the next one, and 1 final one. Right, so Stormcrow wins all 3. So what do we do now? So if the pursuing ship wins, it catches up to the fleeing ship, and ship-to-ship combat begins. Right, if the fleeing ship wins, it escapes. If the result is a tie, the pilot should begin a new series of 3 opposed attacks. Such chases can take days. So then we're going to move into straight into combat. Right, when combat allow the PC to roll initiative as normal. So we go to just going to hit initiative here. Roll for all initiatives. Come back to this screen. When right, if any ships in the battle rely on sails, as ours does, then we're going to put the wind up. So I've got a little table for wind. So the wind is going to be coming from the west. So on the map I can just draw an arrow. Wind is now coming from the west. And at the beginning of every round, each pilot makes an opposed sailing check to determine who has the upper hand. This represents the vagaries of luck, skill, and the environment. So it's very similar to the first opposed piloting check. So a sail check and the professional is a professional sailor check as well. So it's the same thing. So I'm going to the captains of both ships, do a professional sailor check for Rosie and one for Stormcrow. That's the results on the other screen. So Stormcrow wins. Okay, so what does that allow him to do? The pilot who succeeds can move the ship in one square in any directions. So he started off 2 squares away. He can move him, and he is now in contact with him. Or he can change course and head in a different direction. But he's just going to move up close. For every 5 by which the pilot succeeds the check, the pilot gets the upper hand. He can move an additional. So he did move by 5. So if you want, he can move another 5 foot. He could even possibly ram the other ship, but we'll get to that in a second. Right, movement. On the captain's or initiative count, the ship can move. So who's got the first move? There she is, down there, and Stormcrow. So Stormcrow has got the initiative. Put you back onto this other map here. Well, he would have already moved. In fact, he probably would just go straight through into a ramming, I think, with that. So he would move at his current speed, but he can move at his current speed. It can increase his speed by 30 feet. So ships start off moving at 30 feet at their normal speed, and they can increase by 30 feet each round up to their maximum feet. So this particular ship, the player ship, the Red Gull, its speed is its base speed is 90. So it starts at 30 but can get up to 90. But it will take 3 rounds for it to get that. So in this instance, it wouldn't have to do that. Or he can choose to change direction, and he can only change direction at the start of the round. Now, the extended rules for Pathfinder give a few other options. Captains can do full hard to port, heave, make way, stay on course, and uncontrolled. And I've put another little window in there to link to descriptions and all those things there. So if you want to do those things, then you need to go and read up on those rules and how they all work. So each of them, if it's apart from I think the uncontrolled one and maybe the stay on course, require another sailing check to make that happen. So heave to means kind of slowing down. Full ahead would be speeding up. Make way means the pilot can do something tricky. Stay on course, full astern. Uncontrolled is when you do nothing, so there's no check for that one. It just keeps on doing what it's doing. Now with the movement, I don't think I covered this. If you are going here we go. If you're going with the wind, and in this case, the Red Gull was going with the wind. It's coming from the west. There is a section on what happens with speed, but I haven't included in the notes. And if you are going with the wind, you can go twice your speed, only up to your maximum though. And if you're going against the wind, you actually have to slow down altogether, stop altogether. Right, attacking. So, crew members in excess of the ship's minimum crew can be allocated to siege engines if the ship's got them. Siege engines attack on the captain's gunner's initiative count, or one of the two. You pick whichever one. Right. So, and to fire the siege engines, that's a whole layer of complexity as well. So I've created a little link for that. In our first encounters that we'll be doing, we won't be having siege engines, but when we get to them, then if you're going to be involved in siege using the siege engines, you're going to have to familiarize yourself with these attacks. There's direct attacks, like if you're firing a ballista, and indirect attacks, which you're flying a catapult, and they both use different attack rolls with different modifiers. I have created some effects for these things, and in my effects window, if you just search for siege, you should be able to see them there, and then you'll be able to drop them onto your character. The ship, the thing that makes the attack is actually the character, and the attack rolls for these siege engines is based on your combat maneuver bonus, plus you can work in some siege engine skills if you've built them, and a couple other things, and that's all explained in the details of that firing siege engines window. Okay. Now, players they can attack the structure of the boat. You can attack the occupants on the boat. You can attack what's propelling the boat. You can attack if the sails or the oars. You can attack the control devices, the tiller, the steering wheel. You can attack using the siege engine, and you use that other combat. But if you want to attack some of these other things, I'll create another little window for that. Ship-to-ship combat attacks, and that just tells you how to go about attacking all those different things. Those ships do have an armor class. They all also have damage resistance because the timber's quite hard, so they're going to wash off some of the damage that you do. You can attack opponents on the other ships. Attacking the opponents on the other ships, depending on where they are, going to get some cover. The forecastle gets more cover than just general occupants on the deck. The propulsions, the sails and things, there will be stats for sails. There'll be stats for oars and whatever, and I will load them all into the combat tracker, so you can just target them directly into the combat tracker if you're going to attack them. You can attack using the siege engines. We've been through that. Ships, you can do broadside attacks. So if you come up alongside the ship, you can fire all your cannons in one hit, all your ballistas in one hit, and the mechanics for all that are there. Most likely what you're going to be doing is ramming though. So the simple way to make this, there's both a simple and there's a difficult way to do it. Or not difficult, extended way to do it. A ship can attempt to ram a target that has its minimum crew. To ram a target, the ship must move at least 30 feet and end with its bow in a square adjacent to the target. So in this instance, that's what the player's ship have done. So they're in a position to be able to do a ram. The ship's captain or pilot then makes a professional sailor check. If this check is equal to or exceeds the target's armor class, that's the target ship's armor class, the ship hits the target, inflicting damage as indicated, as well as minimum damage to the ramming ship. So the ship that you ran with is also going to take some damage as well. A ship outfitted with an actual ram siege engine inflicts even more damage, another 3d6. So that's the simple way to make it work. To play that out, we would go to Stormcrow. He's the captain. We're going to use his professional sailor check, and he rolls a 19. There it is on the other screen, and we put that up against the ship he's attacking's armor class, and that only has an armor class of 2, so that is definitely a hit. He has rammed it. So the damage he's going to do with that will come from the ship's character sheet. So in the character sheet for the Red Gull, we've set up the damage it does from ramming. So it's going to come in. We target the junk, which I've already got the junk targeted. All the ships have got damage. All the ships have got damage reduction built into their character sheets. They've all got damage reduction 5 or more, depending on what they are. So when we do the bludgeoning damage, it will remove some of the damage because of the damage reduction. So you're going to roll 8d8. Just roll the damage, and it should auto apply. And you'll see on the combat tracker or on the chat window how that will work. So 8d8, and it said a total of 40, partially resisted it, and so it brings that down to 35 damage, and so 35 damage then appears on the junk. What it says, the ship's come did a professional sailor check. If that exceeds the target's armor class, the ship hits the target, inflicting damage as indicated in the ship's ship statistical table to the target, as well as minimum damage to the ramming ship. So the minimal damage to the junk is 8 hit points. So we're going to put 8 wounds on the ship, the player's ship. If it's actually outfitted with a ram siege in it, it's going to inflict an additional 3d6 damage. So on the red gull, the red gull doesn't actually have a ram on it, but if it did, in this instance, it would do another 3d6 damage. Now, to add the ram, I'll just quickly show you how you can do that for those that don't know. I'm just going to add another weapon. I'm going to write ram. Now, because I don't have to do an attack roll for the ram. That's done off the pilot's professional sailor check. All I could do is add in the damage. So here, 3d6. So I just grab 3 6-sided dice and drag and drop them in there, and then I can type in bludgeoning. And it's piercing as well. A ram. Bludgeoning. Okay, and piercing. So now on the red gull, I've got the stats for a ram, but I'll delete that because this ship doesn't actually have a ram. So you will then add that additional damage as well. So that is the fast track version. The extended rules for ramming are slightly different. So I've got a little window over here. You've got to be able to move at least 30 feet and end in a forward square in a square adjacent to the ship. The ship pilot must make a ramming combat maneuver check against the CMD, the target CMD check using the base CMB of the ship plus the pilot skills modifier. So we're going to go into the ship and find the base CMD 8, and then we're going to add to that the pilot sailing skills modifier, which is his professional sailor. So if I bring up Stormcrow's professional sailor, 10, so he's going to get 20 plus 18. Standard rules, you take the CMB of the ship, and then you add to that the professional sailor check of Stormcrow, the captain. It's plus 10, so I'm going to put plus 10 in the modifier. Go to my ship CMB, make my roll. It's targeted, so it should tell me if I get a hit or not based on the ship's armor class. It's only got to get a 2. It hits. If it's successful, the ship hits the target. It's going to then apply the ramming damage as listed in the combat tracker. So in this case, it would be the 8d8. The ship's pilot combat maneuver check. If it succeeds by 5, it did succeed by 5, more than 5. And then it's going to take twice the ship's damage. If it succeeds by 10 or more, takes twice, plus the ship has to stop moving altogether. Um, Regardless of what happens, the ramming ship speed is reduced to 0. So Stormcrow's Red Gull will stop moving at this point, and he'll have to try and pick up speed again if that other ship gets away. And then there's rules for ramming into solid objects and things like that as well. Okay, and the cost of a ship. So that's ramming, how that works. Now there's all sorts of rules that are available for shearing. That's coming up alongside another ship and maybe breaking the oars off. How to take control of the ship. You basically just have to get in there and dispose of the captain, or get the captain to surrender, and you've got control of it. Damaging the ship can take damage, and just like anything else. Broken. What that means, sinking, what that means, repairing the ship, fire, siege engines, and how magic works in ship-to-ship combat. And they've got quite comprehensive rules on, or guidelines for magic and each different spell and how that affects. I've created a little link for that in my game, so my players can go through that, look up, say, control weather, how does that actually work in ship-to-ship combat. I'm not sure how it's going to go with my group. I'm sure if we just play the simple basic rules and don't do any sort of expansion to that, then someone's going to want to go, well, I want to come up and I want to shear the ship. I want to come up next to it. I want to. They'll go. Uh, I want to grab a hold of siege engine and try and shoot the sails. I want to try and take out the tiller. My players will want to do stuff like that, and then we'll have to go and look up the ship-to-ship combat, the details of that, and figure out how that's going to work. So my advice to them will be keep it simple, unless you know you're across the rules, so you can kind of during the game say, I've researched it, this is how it works, and we'll play it out like that. My concern about the ship-to-ship combat is it's very heavily oriented towards the captain of the ship making all the dice rolls, and possibly the master gunner if you are using siege engines. So there's a lot of I can see a lot of maybe some downtime for the other players, and that tends to get a bit boring. So we're just going to have to see how that goes. I'm thinking once we get into rounds, then the players are going to be able to fire their bows. They're going to be able to try and grapple the other ship. They're going to try and board the other ship and all that sort of stuff. And there's comprehensive rules for how all that works as well. So we'll see how it goes. And for my players, maybe watch this video. I hope it helps, and we will see how we go. I'll see you next game session. Bye for now.